Hi everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So for today's video we're going to be making a 3D table decoration using some Planners Anonymous digital kits. So let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, today's a little bit of an experiment, but I want to try and make myself like a 3D diorama kind of thing that I can use on my Christmas table. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and printed out a couple of things from the Planners Anonymous digital kits. Everything except the tree is from the Christmas at Home kit. The other stuff is, the other tree, sorry, is from last year's Deck the Halls, and it's only because there wasn't a tree in this kit and I really wanted a tree. But we're going to give this a go. So, to start off with what I'm going to do, this is just printed on plain A4 paper, there's nothing fancy here. So I'm going to start off with cutting these all out. That's very boring, so I'm going to go ahead and cut to that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've cut all of them out. I have 4 trees, I have a bunch of presents here. Some of these are back to front, so what I've done is I've mirrored a lot of these so that they actually sit opposite ways. So I'm trying to find one so that they'll sit, that's the wrong one. Here we go. So they're the same size, but they're the opposite. So you can sort of make these into the little boxes that I'm going to make these into. The other thing that I did was I cut out 2 of the full fireplaces, and then I cut out the middles of 2 others because I'm going to do something sort of 3D-y to kind of get this to work. Now this is the part where I'm going to get a little bit confused, not the right word. But I'm probably going to be a bit harder. This is going to be more difficult for me. So what I've done is I've got 4 bits. I've got the 4 trees. So I want to put these onto some balsa wood. I'm just going to stick it down and then I'm going to Mod Podge it and then cut out around the outside of it. Now this particular kind of balsa wood is actually kind of thick. The other parts I have is as kind of thinner. I think for the tree I need it to be thick, but for the fireplace and the presents I think I can get away with the thin stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stick these down. I'm just going to use Mod Podge. I'm actually going to, just with you while I'm here, I'm going to do this with this first tree with you guys. So I'm going to grab, this is just a bit of scrap paper that I had left over from that. I have myself a brush because I don't mind putting stuff on my glass mat. I'm just going to put it down here. I'm just going to glue all over this. Charlotte's having talking lessons with Daddy. It can be really messy with this because Mod Podge, we're going to go straight over the top anyway. So I'm going to stick that down. Oh, sticky, sticky, sticky. Hopefully get it in the right spot. There we go. I'm actually going to do 2 trees. So I'm going to do both the ones that have, and because these have got reindeer on it, you can sort of see which ones are the opposites. So this one's mirrored of this one. They're not perfectly mirrored. They're not going to line up perfectly because obviously I fussy cut them and there's probably going to be a little bit of difference, but I think it's going to be enough that I can get away with this. You're still going to see a little bit of the wood around the outside, I think. I don't think it'll be perfectly hidden. We'll work out how we're going to fix that up later. Okay, this one's going to be a bit more difficult because it needs to, oh no it won't. I was going to say it needs to sit something else, but it doesn't. So I'm going to Mod Podge over the top and then I'm going to let this dry. Now I'm actually thinking, rather than using 2 bits of wood here, I wonder if I can cut this out and then stick the other one straight down. I don't know. Now that's bleeding my colours just a little bit. I think that's fine because I've got plenty there and it's kind of going to give it a bit of a vintagey kind of look. I think that's fine. So straight over the top. This is just going to give it a nice little coating so if it does happen to get wet or anything. And then because I've used paper, it's kind of bubbling just a little. So I'm going to grab, where is it? I've used this for stencil paste before. This is actually a cake decorating tool. I'm just going to, ooh, it didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. I'm just going to use this to try and get some of the bubbles out because there is a bit of bubbling happening. Losing some of the ink. Again, I'm not worried about that. There we go. So I'm going to let that dry hopefully it stays flat. I'm scared to put it this way in case it sticks. Let's see what it does there. I really don't want that to, oh yeah, see, that's what I'm worried for. Maybe I should have let the Mod Podge dry first. Anyway, we're with it now. I'm going to try and stick that down now. Alright, I'm going to let that dry. And while that one's drying, we're going to do a similar thing with the presents. So I'm going to go ahead off camera and just get these piles right. I'm also just going to wipe up that Mod Podge because I don't want it to sit on my desk or on my mat and get stuck. Okay, now I've got those. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to put the opposite sides up here, and then just the single sides here, and I'm going to stick these down onto the thinner balsa wood. I am going to use the Mod Podge again, but I'm just this time going to just put it down on the wood and not put the layer over the top, and we'll just see how that works. So I think I have 3 of every gift, so that sort of feels like a lot, but I didn't want to have too few, and I'd rather go too hard. This is definitely a gluey fingers project. Then for the fireplaces, so what I need to do before I do the fireplaces is I need to cut out this middle bit. So I'm just going to do that with a craft knife. I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. So I've got my little mat. I'm just going to cut out the middle. So when I cut these bits, I cut the black away. So for this I want to keep the black. Being as close to the edge as I can be. Doesn't matter if it's not quite perfect. I don't think anyone will be staring at it going, oh no, you didn't quite do it perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to use the Mod Podge again just to stick this down onto that thicker board, but I'm just going to do it one sided. I'm not going to put the second layer on it yet. I love how fast this stuff dries. It's dry. It's basically dry already. It has got a bit of a, like a faded kind of thing happening to it, but I think that's okay. The good thing about this now is you can cut it with scissors. I think the thin stuff, I definitely will be able to cut with scissors, and now that it's dry, I'm actually just going to go back over the top of it. Got a big chunk of it there, which is not fun. Just to seal it. So I'm just being quick. I'm not doing as much of a layer as I did before. I think the little, like the thin stuff, I'll be able to cut with scissors. I may have to cut the tree out with a craft knife, which is fine. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So now that that's done, whoops, got to come back over this one. So while those ones are drying, we're going to start having a shot at doing this one. Where did I put that baby one? There it is. I'm just going to move some of this stuff off. Oh, I need to do one more thing. Sorry, before I put the glue away. I've just got some, I cut out 3 of the stockings. Now these don't need to be double-sided because you're only going to see, or actually I might end up needing to do 2 more, but 3 more. But I'll get to that. So I'm just going to put the stockings down on here as well, because we're going to stick these just down. They don't need to be double-sided, but I may cut 3 more out and do 3 more for the other side, because you're going to have 2 sides to this fireplace, so you're going to see both sides of it. So I'm just giving that a bit of a wipe. I'll clean it properly later. I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting this tree out. So I just want to get each of the trees out first. Does involve a fair amount of pushing hard. There we go. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to cut these out. I'm going to start with the star, because to me the star is the easiest part. So I'm just cutting those out. Trying not to tear the paper, which I did with the first bit, but that's okay. You sort of see now you start to get the shape as you go around. Just trying to be careful, trying not to make too much of a quick cut that'll cause more problems. Because as you go around this, the wood will splinter. And obviously it's easier to cut wood with the grain than against it, and sometimes you've got to cut against it, so just go slowly. You can always sand off some of the edges later if we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and the other one, and I'll be right back. Alright, I have a big old wood mess here, but that's alright. So I have a bunch of the presents, and I have the 2 fireplaces, and I have my 2 trees. So now all I need to do is glue the other trees on the back, which I'm a little nervous about, if I'm being honest. It's probably not going to line up perfectly, but I'm hoping it'll be pretty damn close. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, just with the Mod Podge. I'm just going to put it all over the back here. Apparently you shouldn't leave the lid off. There we go. Yeah, my trees, my stars, sorry, haven't worked out 100% perfectly, but that's fine. I'm also just going to grab a bit of paper. Another bit of my scrap. Just do it that way. Not worried if it gets down the sides, I can fix that later. Probably put a little bit too much on here, but that's okay. Just gonna wipe off the excess. The good thing is this dries clear and dries matte, which makes for a very good finish. Go. Line up the star. Is that the right way? Hold on. No, that's the wrong one. This one's the right one. So these are mirrored, like I said before. So this should fit. It won't be exactly right because obviously my cutting is probably different both sides, but it'll be close. I hope. If it's not 100%, it'll be fine. I'll live. Just don't want to get too much glue on the other side. Now if it's got horrible edges like this one does, I am just going to trim it off, but I'll do it afterwards. So I'm going to do the other one. I'll come back and trim off the edges and put the Mod Podge over the top so that we've got that same finish, and I'll be right back. Alright, now that that's drying, I'm just going to do a couple. So my original thought with the fireplace was that I'd have it a little bit bigger than that, so I have it so it sits sort of out from each other. I actually kind of like the thickness of it, and maybe then I can just use one bit of wood to kind of cover the up in the middle, and that's where then the little frame will go. So the little, fireplace will go. So if I sort of work on putting that down, again, just a bit of glue. Oh, lumpy glue. I don't have any of this thin wood left that's wide enough to fit the whole of the picture on, so I'm just going to use 2 bits. I think that's fine. Just got this leftover bit at the bottom, so that'll work. So I'm just lining that up. I'm just going to cut off the excess of that, and I'm going to let that dry as well. And then while that's all doing that, I'm going to bring in this tray. So this is what I'm going to put everything on. So it's sort of going to have like the fireplace sitting here, the tree, and then all of the presents are kind of going to be around it. But you'll be able to look at it from either side and see the sort of effect. So the trees aren't quite dry yet. And maybe I will need to have that be a little bit wider, because otherwise it won't sit up. It makes a horrible noise. I'm just going to trim out this now. So it's nearly dry. It's not quite, but it's enough to do this. This is what I mean. This thinner balsa wood is fantastic. It's so easy to cut. I'll just go ahead and stick the other bit of fireplace to it. So with the tree, I'm only really worried about the paper bits. I don't mind if I can see a bit of the wood. It's just if I can see too much of the paper from one side. So I think that's fine. I did put a bit of a other finish on the other side. I'm just using the scissors. I'm just getting in as close as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then this is where I'm sort of trying to work out how I put the tree together. Do I cut it down the middle and have it like that, or do I have it something that because that star's just a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit too delicate to really take being able to sort of stick it the way I want to do it. I've got a horrible clump of glue in there. Now the stars are the only thing I'm worried about, because that one really is very off center compared to the other one. So what I might do, actually I'm going to stop touching it because it's not quite dry. We'll keep going with the fireplace and then we'll come back to that. So the fireplace bit, that's what I was going to do. If I put a bit of wood, it's not going to work. My original thought, I've actually stuffed this up. Okay, so I've stuffed it up. That's fine. I'm going to print out another copy of just the middle bits of the fireplaces, because you can kind of manipulate it. I'm also going to cut out a couple more of the stars, because I might actually do something with the stars, because I feel like they're just a little bit too mangled now. So if I sort of just push them down so that they're flat, I don't have any of that paper thing happening, I might just be able to get away with doing something else with the stars. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, cut them out, and I'll be right back. Just while that's printing, I know I said I'd do something else, but I'm going to cut this first. I'm really scared to do this. I feel like I'm just going to cut it straight down the middle. I am going to use a ruler, so I've got my steel ruler here just to help me hold this still. And I'm just going to try and cut as close to down the middle as I can. If I lose the star, I'm actually I'll be okay with that. I just need to make it so that I can do what I want to do. So I'm being very careful. I'm pushing as opposed to dragging the knife, because that way you sort of get you get less tear of the paper, because remember, you are still working with paper. Once you've got it sort of past the paper line, then you can go in and push a bit more. I'm being very careful on the star because it is only being held on by a little bit. Try not to put my hand down too much on the paper either, because it's not wet, it just seems to still stick to my skin, so I'm just trying to be careful. And I'm just pulling that apart. The paper on the other side's holding it together, so I'm just going to really gently run the knife up that. And then I should be able to, yeah, I knew the star would be the pain. It's alright, it'll be fine. Yeah. Okay, we may have to do something with the star, but that's okay. Alright. So then I'm going to get some of my Tombow glue. I'm going to run this down the edge of my balsa. Just putting a little bit on the inside of that paper too. It's just not quite stuck the way I want it to be. And I'm going to stick this down. See here how it's, because it's mirrored, it almost looks like it's joining up. Now this is going to be a bit of a process, so I'm going to have to sit here and hold this until it's tacky. So I'm pushing fairly hard here. Just going to see. Oh, we might be okay there. There we go. Now I'm going to give that a little while to dry. That's where I'm going to get the piece of paper with the fireplaces, and we'll go and fix that bit. Alright, so I fixed the wood, or fixed the fire part, so that I can now sit that in the middle. The only other thing I want to do to this before we start putting it together is I just want to colour the inside in black. So I don't mind it on the others. I don't mind that it doesn't look like it just looks like wood. That's absolutely fine. But just for the inside of the fireplace, I would just rather it look black. So this is just a Tombow marker. I'm being really rough here. It doesn't need to be perfect by any stretch. But just need to be as much covered as it possibly can be. Okay. So then I can start putting this together. So I'm just going to use a bit of that Tombow glue again, just down the sides. Don't need to do the bottom or the top because there's nothing there anyway. So I'm lining it up. So I'm lining the back up because I know the back and the front are pretty close. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the back, and then I'm going to put something heavy on this. Now, depending on what you want to do, I'm going to put a little bit of glue just on the top and just put just a sliver of excess wood, just so there's a bit of stability, I guess is the right word, because this is all that's going to really hold it together. But that means it's going to be just a little bit thicker and it might stand up a little bit easier. I have so much glue on my fingers at this point, it's just funny. Here we go. Lining that up. And I'm trying to find something heavy. Where are my acrylic blocks? I feel like I need something heavier, but for now, that'll do. Okay, so that's going to sit up there. We go back to our tree, which is pretty much stuck at this point. The other side will be a lot harder because we don't have the ability to push it down like we had the other. So a bunch of that glue. I actually don't know if this is supposed to be good for wood. I have absolutely no idea. My assumption was just that it probably would be fine. And then I'm pushing together as hard as I can, and I'm just holding them still. And again, I only have to do it until it just tacks together. Then I can let it dry. Alright, let's see if we can start putting this together. So my little tree here, I did make one little mistake. It's got a bit of a curved edge to it. So what I've done is I've made what I'm going to call a tree skirt out of some extra balsa wood. I wasn't going to do the edges. This is just with a Copic marker. No reason why I'm using Copics instead of Tombows now. Just, it was the colour that jumped at me. Just rubbing that along the edge. I am being really careful though, because I don't want to damage my Copic. Did get some really smooth edges when I was cutting this, which I was rather proud of. It's very hard to do with a balsa wood, like with balsa wood and a craft knife, but I did it. So this is going to be like a tree skirt, but it's going to hold this still, or hold it straight, because it was kind of, I could have it the other way, but it was wavering then. I didn't want it to do that, so. Anyway. Oh, goodness. And then the fireplace looks really cool. I really like the fireplace. So we'll have our little tree skirt in the middle and our little Christmas tree, big Christmas tree. We've got the fireplace, which can sit over to one edge. It does doesn't quite sit flat. So whether or not I just need to make some little feet for it as well. Oh no, there we go. Just was not sitting flat in the spot that I had it. Could always use some blue tack to hold it up. And I'm going to stick a couple of the stockings in front, and I like the fact that they kind of hang there. I'm only going to use two, and I'm only going to use them on one side, so I'm just going to use some Tombow glue for that as well. Like I said, I kind of like the fact that there's just two. Actually, I might just put one on the other side, so there'll be two on one side and one on the other. There's two. And then all I need to do is put all the presents. And I'm trying to think if it's going to be easier. Oh, I love that. Here we go. Tree. You could also, like, if you wanted to do two of these or three of these or whatever. So I've got all my presents. And I'm just wondering, because originally I had sort of thought of doing these little boxes. But I think that will actually take way too long. And this video has, like, it's going to be shortened because there's lots of stuff cut out, but it's taken me a fair while to do this. Because if I put them up that way, they're not going to be thick enough to sit up on their own. Okay, I'm going to stick them down back to back. So the way that I had originally sort of thought to do them. And then I'm going to see if I can kind of smidge them together so that they kind of sit as a cross. Yeah, no, there's plenty. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do this and I'll be right back. Alright, so I finished doing the presents and I just cut them so that they sit sort of like crossed here. I'll do a zoom in a second. I didn't do a particularly good job. Some of them are a bit wide and they wobble, but you get the gist. Then this is how I've set it up. I think I need more presents on here. I feel like it's just a little bit sparse, is that the right word? But I think it's very cute and I really do love it, and I'm very much looking forward to having it on my Christmas table. I really love that fireplace. To me, the fireplace is the best part. It's not 100% sort of stable, but it sits there and does the job. So there you go, there's my 3D table decoration using the Planners Anonymous digital kits. These are really chock-a-block full of so much that you can use in so many different ways. You can obviously turn them into die cuts and stick them in your planner, which you're going to see me do next week. But just wanted to show you there's so much more you can do with these. You really can bring them off the page and try something completely different. It may take you a while, it may not be perfect, but I can guarantee you this is going to blow some people in my house away when it comes to Christmas. So I'm really looking forward to being able to see their faces. So I'd love, 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 love for you to give this a shot as well. Make sure you tag me in any recreations you do make, either on Instagram or on Facebook, or of course you can leave me a comment here, tell me what your Instagram or Facebook is, and I can go and look for myself. If you did enjoy this one, please give it a big old thumbs up, and don't forget to be subscribed for lots more Planners Anonymous Digital Kit goodies. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you again in my next video. Sending lots of huggles. Bye!